Okay, so um, we'll have a little look at you from 4 different camera angles. You actually did. Do you know what kind of time you did for that swim? Do you think?
I would have thought 33 length.
Okay.
So like 2:24.
Yeah, 2:24. So actually, you actually came in at 4:16, which is quite good, isn't it?
So it's 2:08. 2:08.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So actually, on CSS is 32. So I swam at 32.
You did, yeah. And that's what I thought. You'd be really pleased with that. You
Yeah.
came in at 4:16, didn't look at it, and as I was walking back through, I thought, oh, John's going to be pleased with that.
Yeah.
And that's
2:08.
after a training session.
Yeah.
That's fab. So although you might not, like you said, that's actually representative of actually how you feel.
So in those training sessions, I must be doing a lot quicker than 32.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So let's have a little look. Yeah, so basically what we're seeing here, if we were to stop you here, so this is, I've pulled you straight onto this because this is like the biggest area which highlights what you're doing in the water. Let's slow you down and have another little look. So what happens as you're entering into the water is that, as you say, what's going on underneath the water, and we haven't looked underneath the water yet, but you're dropping that elbow which isn't providing the support you need. So what we're looking at is as you go and take this breath, this arm kind of drops down, and it's a bit like a hot knife in butter. Can you see that okay? I know it's a bit...
I can't see it dropping.
No, you can't see it dropping from this angle. We'll go onto the water and I'll show you that. But how you've described and what I've seen is that, you do drop that elbow as you take that breath, which doesn't give you any support. And I describe it as like your elbow being a bit like a hot knife, and try and get butter on it. It's kind of like slips through the water. Therefore, your body's not very stable, and your legs have to kick out for stability. So basically, what we need to do is sort out exactly what your arms are doing, and in turn go sort out what your legs are doing. So if let's just have another little look carrying through. And what's quite interesting, what happens every time, because you just breathe to the one side. But what's interesting, when you come back, you actually do rotate your whole body as if you're going to take a breath on the other side, but then you sort of over-rotate and then you swing back. So this indicates, so that kind of over-rotation and swinging back will indicate that dropping elbow on both sides, to be fair. So one of the things we'll work on massively with yourself today is you'll definitely work on that catch underneath the water. Okay. The other thing from this angle is quite interesting. If we put a line across where your head is, you can see your hand entry on this stroke is actually quite close to your head. Ideally, I mean, that might not be a bad position for you, but ideally we'd want you entering the water somewhere between your elbow and your wrist.
You mean close that way?
So yeah, we'd want you actually...
Further.
Maybe not, a little bit further out. We're only talking about 2 or 3 inches, but it might really, really help. Now, how we do that is really think about engaging our shoulder blades. When we do that, do you understand, when I've spoken about it in squat, like kind of bringing those shoulder blades together and back? And that's kind of, if our body was an engine of a car, that's kind of the engine. So that's where all our power comes from. So after a hard swim session, what we want is sore lats. So we want our sides of our body quite sore rather than our fine shoulder muscles. Do you ever have any sore shoulders?
Really?
That's good. That's good to hear. Let's just have a little look what you do on your other side. Your other side, can you see the difference? It's actually slightly further away from your head. Not massively, but you are spearing. It's only a few inches, but you are slightly further away. The other thing that's noticeable is your overgliding tendency of, look at this hand here, and your hand here. So at this very moment, you've got both hands in front of your head, which again causes that kind of like pausing effect within your stroke and instability.
Last time I did this, I remembered that I didn't have any hands in front of me.
Did you not? Oh, that's really interesting. So, just as an example, and you'll have seen this loads of times, let's pull up Jono, who's been compared to Jono before, I'm sure, in the same position. And let's slow him down, otherwise it's not fair, is it? Jono went to Athens Olympics, so he's pretty handy in the water. So we worked with him when we were out in Australia. But if we can see Jono, like if ideally what we want with a swimmer is if we pause Jono here, and even Jono has a fault that we could change, but we could put a skewer literally straight down his centre line, and a swimmer kind of works along that skewer, so you rotate along that skewer. What we can see with John here is that if we try to put, let's get rid of those lines, just by letting me continue. If we try to put that skewer down the centre line of John, we've got a slight bend here, and I know it's a fish-eyed view on there, but you definitely have a few kind of like banana-ing down the pool. So you do move laterally quite a bit down the swimming pool. But you can see here with John just how straight it is. Now this is all about where your hand enters and what it does underneath the water. So if we can get you spearing in, we'll have an experiment with how far away from your head, because it might just not work for you. So, but you can see here with Jono, the same lines as, let's pull this back to here. So if we put that line across Jono's forehead, you can see he's actually spearing in here in front of his head, whereas you were spearing in literally where I've drawn that black line on with Jono. So you were spearing in on this black line here. So you're spearing in like an inch in front of your head, whereas you can see Jono spears in about a foot. So we'll have a little experiment with one, shoulder blades together and back, and trying to think about your power coming from behind your shoulder blades. So as if you had like this little squeezy ball between here, and every time you took your arm out, you're kind of squeezing it, just gently, just trying to squeeze a little ball. That will in turn allow you to...
You're not squeezing the whole time you're swimming, just...
No, just as you're coming... Imagine when you're bringing your arm out, what you want to do is think about squeezing that ball as you're bringing that arm out, and then spearing in nice and straight. And just like with Jono here, what we're going to get you to do is imagine that you've got lines from your shoulder all the way down to the end of the swimming pool. And that's what we want to see, is that ideal spearing in and then completely straight. So that you can see with Jono's hand that all his energy is going forwards. What we've got with yourself, I'll just like these lines to disappear again. As you enter in again with this, if that was your centre line, we can't really get a true centre line because it's not quite straight. And I'm being really picky here, but your elbow, your arm looks very short there, and that would be because it's dropped. But if we come across here, and then we extend it out, you can actually see it does cross the centre line a bit. And let's see what happens with the other arm. So again, now, if you can see, you can start to see how much you've moved here in the pool. So that's your centre line now, and you can just see now it goes wide. But it still will cross your centre line, yeah. So this starts to draw a picture of just how much you move like laterally around the swimming pool, and that indicates that your arm position isn't going in as straight as it possibly can. Therefore, all your energy is starting pushing you sideways, 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 rather than like where we see with Jono, that it's straight down the pool, that everything he's putting into his stroke goes in the direction he wants to. So again, going back to that, shoulder blades together and back, thinking about that ball every time you take a stroke, and spearing in nice and straight. And that's one of the things we're working on today. Let's have a little look. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. Once we eliminate that slight crossover, that will help tune up your legs a little bit, cause and effect. Crossover at the front end will give you a kick out at the back end just to stabilise. And you imagine the drag that leg's causing. That will be slowing you down significantly. So if we can sort out your crossover, which will bring your legs in, reduce drag, and you'll go faster. So
208 with all that going on.
I know! That's what I thought you were going to be dead chuffed with that time. You see, just when you, not when you breathe, but on your other stroke, there's a slight pause.
So try to breathe on the other side. I'm just like a beginner. I can do 2, maybe 3 lengths, and instead of it taking 32 seconds, it's taking me about 37 and a half.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you fancy giving it a go today?
We
won't spend ages on it. We'll do like a few lengths.
I don't know what's causing that.
Okay, that'd be interesting.
But it's the different, it's just like starting swimming again.
And that's very frustrating, isn't it? Okay,
It's
I'll
not,
have,
and
we'll
it's,
have
and
a
it, and
little play with that.
it's not that the blowing helps or anything. It's just the position. Let's get yourself.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, well, yeah, okay, we'll have a little look at that and play around with that today, I think. So what do you notice here, having had quite a few video analysis sessions?
Well, let's definitely put it right down here.
Both sides. So what is happening is you're entering in, and actually on both sides, and I'll show you from the side view in a minute, you drop this arm quite significantly. So actually, although your hand is facing the right way, your arm will be like this in the water at the moment. And that all that forearm will be causing a drag. And again, it's not getting an effective catch. It's just, the thing is, it's not actually setting you up to get into this position. So therefore, the only thing you can do is kind of pull back with your elbow, and that slips through the water rather than keeping the elbow high.
But all the time I'm doing that, I think I'm doing this.
Yeah, and that's the thing what we need to work on today is I need to make sure.
But I know when I'm doing it right.
Yeah, and that's when miracles and when people start changing their swim stroke. If I can today get you to do a drill that you go, oh yeah, I can feel the difference from that to that, even though you might not change it straight away. Obviously, that's when you can start
And when I
making
do
a
the
difference
doggy
in the
paddle,
swim.
I automatically drop that out.
Yes.
I
Yeah. You will do, and that's basically just to keep developing your muscle memory for doing this. So again, like you say, dropping at elbow, and you can see with this arm, every time you take a breath, you've got a massive break in here. So you've got your whole forearm and that hand putting a massive break on every single time you take a breath. And what ideally we want to be doing, and let's put Shelley here. Shelley Taylor Smith, have you heard of her? Yeah. So Shelley in the same position as you, just have a little look at Shelley swimming along. Let's slow her down. So she enters in, and her hand, if you imagine you've got a smiley face on the back of your hand, her hand is already, that smiley face is already kind of pointing down towards the bottom of the pool and slightly behind her. So she's already engaged that catch, so she spears in a little bit deeper, and then she's already getting into this catch position. Hinges from that elbow, and this is where you look completely different in the water, and pulls back through. When she takes a breath, this is in exactly the same position as yourself. This arm is out in front here, giving her support, whereas your arm is bent at the moment like this. And that's what we'll practice as well today. When you take a breath, that arm being in the right position. I think this is our main, what we're going to work on mainly today, is getting into this right catch, because everything else will then fall into place, or it'll feel a lot easier. So, you've probably seen this before, but my visuals.
I was scratching my nose last time we did this.
Oh yeah, go on.
My elbow, this was up there.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Touching my nose.
Let's have a. Really, was it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Oh, it wasn't. Well, we can improve this definitely. It's going to feel really strange to try and change it. I can't even really measure this because what you can see with Shelley is her elbow's nice and high. What we can see with you, and definitely when we look on the side view, is actually you come back like this. So to do 208 with your arms being not as effective as they possibly could be, let's say, that's really good. I think we could actually change your swim times quite quickly if we can get your body and your muscle memory to change a little bit. So you can see here that angle's around 125, which is, well, from the sounds of it, is much better than it was. Was it really?
Almost.
Wow. That's fab. That's such an improvement. That's good to see. So then, plumb line down from the water level through your shoulder to the bottom of the swimming pool. And if I did the same with Shelley, you can just start to see the difference in terms of where your hand position is. I mean, ideally what we want to see is this hand on that black line, which is where your arm is, or your hand is, but we need that elbow a little bit higher and in a slightly different position. So rather than pulling back, it's up here. So we'll definitely work on that. And then on this side again, your whole body's here. And basically, because you're taking a breath every 2 strokes, whatever happens on that breaststroke needs to be really good, because most swimmers stroke before we part when it comes to take a breath. So again, that is 146. So you can start to see it's quite a wide angle, and our ideal angle is like 100 to 120. So what we've seen so far is slight crossover from above the water, which is creating like a kick out for stability. What we've seen from this view is that you're coming in, putting on a brake still on both your hands to drop in at elbow. And then, so what we need to do is actually get you to spear in a little bit further away from your head and a little bit deeper, and keep that elbow nice and high, which is the drills that we've done, like the doggy paddle and the sculling. And what I'll do today is just make sure you get them perfect, because then whenever you practice them, you're practicing the right stuff, rather than, like you say, when you do doggy paddle, you see you're dropping that elbow. Yeah. So it might feel a little strange today. It's going to really try and change.
When I go in with this, I'll see the elbow's down there, and then this hand sort of doesn't finish the stroke, just comes out the water, gets back again, it just lifts itself out.
Yes, you are absolutely right with what you're doing with that, because I was watching it today.
And then I think, well, I've got to get that back, but I can't get that back because something's going on here.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll actually go to that now. I'll come back to this one. Okay, from side view then.
And that one was alright, that came out of the course, but if somebody's sort of coming out here somewhere.
So look at this. See, at this current moment, you're doing a bit of a Superman effect. You've got this hand coming out here, and this hand coming out here. So at the moment, you're not consistent with your stroke. Ideally, what we want to be looking at, so your timing rhythms out, which won't be used to you, because
we haven't got any rhythm anyway.
You can get rid of mine then. So, if we have a look at where Shelley's arms are, when this one's in front here spearing in, this hand's already pulling back. So your timing and rhythm is slightly out. Because at the moment yours are both out in front of your head. But not on every stroke. So when you breathe, have a look at what happens when you take your breath. But your timing's much better. So your timing's right. Once you take a breath, the stroke after is brilliant. And then on this one, you go for your Superman. So on the stroke you don't, so you breathe, and your timing's good. And then on the stroke you don't breathe, you do catch up. And we're going to change that timing. What this also highlights then here, John, is this dropping elbow. And you're pulling back underneath the water like this, and that will just be slipping. So it's a really inefficient catch. So if we can get you with that elbow nice and high, and often we often say, imagine you've got a big Swiss ball or barrel that you're leaning over, so it's like tucked underneath your armpit. That will create that kind of like reaching up over a barrel effect, keeping that elbow high. At the moment, your barrel is actually here, pushing you down. And the same on this side. So when you do take a breath, what we really like to do, is keep this arm so that your shoulder's higher than your elbow, your elbow's higher than your wrist, your wrist higher than your fingers. So at the moment, it's really evident that your elbow's dropped. So we'd like to go down to your elbow. Your hands can stay where it is, but keep that elbow up a little bit. And this, in turn, will just help everything within your stroke. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like you've improved, though.
It's everything I know you should do, but doing it is a different thing.
I know, it is absolutely that. Yeah.
You read all about it, and you know what you should do, but you don't know what you're actually doing yourself.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things you're doing, if you think of your legs and what they're doing here, it looks like you're starting doing a slight breaststroke kick. And what we saw from above was that they were quite wide, which would be just, creating a lot of drag, bit like unleashing a parachute at the back end. And this is caused by, you've got a pause in your stroke where your two hands nearly catch up with each other creates a pause, so your body's got no momentum going through the water, and the only way it goes is, oh my goodness, I'm going to drown, or I'm going to sink slightly, and your legs kick out for that stability. It's quite clever. But if we can get that timing and rhythm and right, you'll actually eliminate what's going on with your legs. So two things to eliminate what's that kind of kick out that we're seeing with your legs is work on that crossover we saw, which isn't massive, but it will definitely help with going straighter and being more efficient in the water, and definitely working with your timing and rhythm, so getting you looking a lot more like Shelley in the water. We won't get you wearing a swimming costume yet. Mind you, most men would be wearing a similar thing with long legs in open water. You know how I often go on about your head position? Because you haven't got massively low sinking legs, and actually although they are lower than, well, let's just do this and then we can look in the water. But if we have a look at Shelley straight, if we put a line through the body, you can see her chest is actually the lowest part, and her toes actually sometimes go slightly lower than the chest, but that's it. If we put the same lines on yourself along your chest, you see your legs go lower than that line. I think once we develop your catch and get rid of this dropped arm, your leg position will come up significantly, and your head. What we want to practice today is moving your head so that you're looking slightly further forward, because that will help you massively. Even in your body position as it is, I think you'll definitely it definitely help working on just looking slightly further forward than looking down to the bottom of the pool. So, what we're going to do is work on breathing first. We'll give you a go at bilateral breathing. I'll give you a few little tips, and I can't wait to get you in the pool. We won't spend masses of time on it, because you'll soon go, yeah, actually that feels all right, or that doesn't feel okay. We'll do a little bit of kicking just to give you an idea of exactly the muscles you want to engage when you're kicking. We'll work on that crossover that we saw, but we'll then spend the majority of the time on what's going on underneath the water and developing the muscle memory for high elbow. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Are you excited to get into the